Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for staying late, too, for this. My name is Sean Petrie. I'm a creative writer and a poet. I do the typewriter poetry stuff, which I think I'm going to do a little bit of that at the very end of this, too. So if nothing else, just stay for that, right? I have not always been a creative writer, much less a poet. When I was in 5th grade, the summer before 5th grade, we moved from Ohio to Dallas, Flower Mound, Texas, right outside of Dallas. It was me and my mom and my stepdad. And that was a big move. And kind of fortunately for me, I was very good at sports back then. I was very fast, good, had good balance, that kind of stuff, good at all the things, and I was good at football. And that really helped me to fit in, find a place in this very different from Ohio going to Dallas place. And so I played football. I think I started like in the Pee Wee leagues there and kept playing all through high school. I was the starting running back on our varsity football team. I was the kick returner, and I hated it. I did not like the game. I'm not sure. I've gone back to try and figure out exactly what it was that I didn't like. It wasn't like I didn't like the physical aspect of it. There were some parts of that I actually kind of liked. I just didn't like the game and maybe the mentality, or maybe it's just like some people like vanilla ice cream, others like Cherry Garcia, whatever it is. Like I didn't like that. But at that time, like I was 15, right? At this point when I was like, I hate doing this. But it was my identity. It was where I fit in. It was how I belonged. It was kind of the respectable thing to do. And man, at 15 in suburban Dallas, like I did not have the strength, courage, whatever it is, to walk away from that, right? If I had sucked, it would have been a lot easier. I would have been like, I'm done. And they'd be like, fine, please go away, right? So what I did is I came up with and planned and carried out a fake injury. I know, right? Yeah. And I don't remember exactly what I did to research it. This was pre-internet, but I think I knew that like neck injuries were bad things. So I remember in practice when I had the thought, we're stretching, and I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. Like I'm gonna be done. And then I remember it was an away game, and we're on the bus, and I'm going through it in my head, like the plan that I had, what I was gonna do. And it was on the opening kickoff. And I got the opening kickoff, and I ran and made sure I got tackled. And everybody else, all the other players, both teams, got up, went off the field, and I stayed there on my back. And I remember the ref came over, and he knelt down, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And at that point, I was still like, I don't have to do this. I can just jump up and be like, yes, I'm fine, right? And I did not. I said, no, my neck feels weird, and I said, I can't feel my arm. So I can't feel my right arm. So he like blows a whistle and calls the coach and the trainer over there, and they take me off on the stretcher to the side, and they call an ambulance. This was an away game, so my mom was not there, so somebody called her to meet us at the hospital, bless you. And I'm sitting there, I remember waiting for the ambulance too, and the other running back on our team, Jeff Sharp is his name, I don't keep in touch with him, but anyways, he was sitting there, and he's like, dude, you can't feel your arm? I'm like, and he was pinching the shit out of my arm all the way up. He's like, you can't feel that? I'm like, nope, can't feel that at all. So, I know. I don't know what I didn't like about the football mentality now that I think about that. So the ambulance comes, they take me to the hospital. My mom meets us at the hospital, and she's like, what happened to your arm? And I was like, so there was the guys testing to see whether I could feel. She's like, what? And she was almost as distraught about that as about the injury. And so They take me in, and they do some x-rays, and we're sitting in the doctor's room or whatever, and the doctor comes back with x-ray results, and he says, well, we couldn't find anything wrong. And I was like, shit. Because like, I could fool my teammates and the coach and the trainer and my mom, which is, I can't believe I did that, but I can't fool a doctor, right? But then he was like, but with neck injuries, it can be really hard to tell, and if this happens again, you could be paralyzed. And my mom was like, that's it, you're not playing football anymore. And I was like, oh, darn. And it worked. Like, I found a way to, like, get out of this thing that I didn't like doing, but still, like, keep the respect that I thought I needed and for what I wanted to do back then. And I didn't tell anybody for over 10 years. I kept that inside, and at first it was great. I had to wear a neck brace around school. Like people, I remember like they'd be like Petrie coming in, like what? And they all thought it was funny because I had to turn behind to go do that, like a turn to 180. That never got old for them. But other than that, it worked. And so, but I think it really kept eating away at me. And I eventually told my best friend from high school. I told her about it. And she's like, I can't believe you like did that and fooled everybody. And I was like, I know, I can't either. And I told my mom. And she was like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. Like that would have been your only way to do that. That was a lot of pressure back then. And I was like, wait, where were you back then? Where was that mom back there? And maybe she was there, and I just didn't see it. I mean, I'm 15, and I was just too afraid of not doing what I was supposed to do and what I was good at. I think that those two things made it extra tough, and that was how I had an identity. That was how I fit in, and that was my way out of it back then. To kind of, something in my soul was like, you can't keep doing this, but then I kind of found that way out, right? And I went to college, and I made good grades, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so at that point, the kind of respected or expected path was, oh, you make good grades, had a liberal arts degree, go to law school. So I went to law school, did well at that, went and worked at a big law firm, and I was a litigator, and I was good at it. I was not bad, and I did not like that either, right? I was good at it, but I didn't like the personality in me that it brought out. I remember not long after I'd started, about 4 months or so, the opposing counsel produced all these emails to us, and they printed them out. And there was one from about 4 months earlier, and it said, new attorney on the case, Sean Petrie, total asshole. And I was like, that's not who I want to be, right? Who I did want to be, though, I had at that point figured out or decided, like, I have this creative side, and I want to do creative writing. And specifically, I wanted to do creative writing for kids. And so, not the way that 15-year-old Sean would have done it. This was 30-year-old Sean was like, I'm just going to quit, and I'm going to say that. Like, and it was hard, like telling my attorney friends and the judge that I had just clerked for, like that I was going to do that. And they're like, I'm going to write, and I'm going to quit law, and I'm going to write for kids. And they're like, no, what do you really want to do? I was like, no, that's it. And I still remember my friends, like my attorney friends, when I was doing that, they'd be like, oh, let's go out and do something. I'm like, no, I'm working on a book. And he was like, oh, no, you're just writing. Come on. And I was like, that word just right there, right? It was hard because it wasn't, at least in my circle, was not the expected thing to do, but I stuck with it. And as anybody who writes or is a creative knows, it's a solitary thing, right? It's a tough thing to do on your own. And for me, what I kind of was lucky to find here in Austin is there is actually a surprisingly strong children's writing community here. And so I became part of that. I also did a little bit, for a short time, I did improv here. And now that I think about it, I'm like, I guess I was kind of good at acting on the field and with my fake injury back then, and so that worked out. But it was doing those things and kind of saying yes to those things and not going down the path that I felt like I was supposed to, right? That led me eventually to a friend of mine from improv called up one day and she's like, hey, there's a maker fair here in Austin. I want to do something with words, a booth with words. And I'm like, maybe. And I almost said no. But I was like, how, why not? We'll just do it. And I went, and we had a mutual friend who was a children's writer, and she brought these typewriters. And so we set those up, and it ended up being this cool thing that we had not planned at all. We didn't even know what we were doing. We called ourselves the word makers. And the first person who came up asked for, it was this 8-year-old girl, and she's like, what are you guys doing? And I was like, we don't really know. We're making things up with words. And she said, could you write a haiku about a dragon? I was like, well, sure. And so I did, and I had to count out like 5, 7, count out the syllables, and I had the typewriter there and doing that, and that sound brought other people over, and they're like, what are you guys doing? And the girl's like, they're writing poems on typewriters. And we're like, I guess that's what we're doing. All right. And since then, it's kind of snowballed into this thing that now we're part of a group. We're called Typewriter Rodeo. I feel like I have a team with them, right? That now I have a place that I feel like this is the place that calls to my soul. I remember back when I was an attorney, people would say, like, what do you do? And I'd be like, oh, I'm an attorney. And my shoulders would sag, right? Like that. And now people ask me, what do you do? And I say, like, I write, I teach, I'm a poet. Like the shoulders go up. And I feel like that, for me, is the best measure of who I am, is that physical response of having the shoulders up there. And so it is great. I have this group, this community, this team, I freaking get paid to do poetry. Like, who does that? Who gets that? But it's also, it's hard every single time. Like, I've done this all over the country. I think, somebody said, whoever introduced me, like 20,000 poems, and that's probably about right. Every single time somebody comes up and asks for a poem, it's scary, right? But now I feel like 15-year-old Sean would have found some way out of that, right? And faked like, oh, I'm sick, I just got to go over here, right? But now I lean into that each time, because I don't think it ever gets any easier. I don't, but I think that's maybe the right way for me to keep pushing and finding out who I am, to kind of lean into that fear. So I kind of wish I could go back to 15-year-old Sean and say, like, look, you didn't have to do that. But I'm also kind of glad that he did, because I don't think I would have made this same journey without that. So that is my story. Thank you for listening to that. And now, to just lean into that fear again, I have my typewriter here, which is awesome. This guy is a 1928 Remington, still kicking. I know. All right. Yeah, it's working. And so this is the sign that we have that says free poems, any topic. So what I'm going to do now is, to actually make that happen, I would like somebody here to give me a topic to make up a poem about right now on this typewriter. Does anybody have a topic? Cheese. All right. I'm going to type a cheese poem while the band does some musical entertainment here. By the way, I do this at schools, and I'll ask the kids, like, how long does it take? And I'll sometimes do, like, I'll have the timer going like this and get it, like, under a minute. I'm going to, not quite, maybe, I don't know, it might be an under a minute poem, who knows? But I'm going to do a cheese poem right now while they play, and then I'll read it, and then
Shoulders up, shoulders up, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Woo! All right, cheese. This ended up being a rhyming poem. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Cheese has to rhyme, right? Cheese. Ooey goodness, give me it, please. All my life comes down to cheese. Swiss and cheddar, you know how I felt. And you, oh queso, the perfect melt. Cheesy cheese, you can't be beat. Just one more slice, and my life's complete. Cheese.
Said so does